Hey, it's Addison Chop. Let's play a game. Yeah. Let's play rock, scissors, paper. Why not? Or hang on. Whoa. Or rock, paper, scissors. I don't know why I keep. Whatever. Whichever you like. It's fine. Alright, here's how we're going to play. So, on shoot, give me the best you got. So, for example, rock, scissors, paper, shoot. Or rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Whichever one in your mind, it's okay. Alright, so here we go. Ready? Rock, scissors. Wait, hang on. Hang on. Can we just. One more time? We got it this time. Rock, scissors, paper, shoot. How'd you do? Well, even if you didn't win, hopefully today you're going to have fun listening about rock, scissors, paper. So, here we go. Alright, so like I said, today we're going to talk about rock, scissors, paper, or rock, paper, scissors, whichever. And I'm going to talk about how it is seen and used in Japan. And of course, I want to show you how it is used in games. So first of all, speaking of games, I played not too long ago on the Wii U. Do you remember that thing, the Wii U? It was a Nintendo console like 4 years ago. It had the little screen that you could hold, that thing. Yeah, that's the one. So, on the Wii U, I played this game called Paper Mario. Maybe Color Splash, I think the name is. You can tell I love it. Anyway, I played this game and I noticed when I was playing that these, what they call shinden, like temples that you could go to, well, upon one glance, I saw that these were very strikingly similar to JANKEN, and that is rock, scissors, paper in Japanese. And of course, when I went inside and I went to my opponent and we began the match, I was very soon well aware that it was in fact JANKEN. The whole match is just playing JANKEN with your partner. Just rock, scissors, paper. That's all. And you have to kind of read what the enemy will do and of course give the appropriate card, and then you can win the rock, scissors, paper championship. Ooh. And I thought it was really interesting how rock, scissors, paper was such a big thing. Like, why does it have its own temple? Why does it have its own WWF fighting champion? Why? I'll tell you the answer. JANKEN is a way of life in Japan. That's why. So first, why don't we talk about a little history about JANKEN? So first of all, it originated in China. I didn't know this, but apparently it is true. It originated in China, and it was actually a game that kind of involved just fingers, like your pinky, and then your, I think, index finger, and then your thumb or something. And anyway, like one finger's stronger than the other two in something, and you just lift a finger or something along those lines, or along those fingers. Oh. Of course, there were a lot of different versions. There were a lot of different items that they would say, you know, the fox can't beat the hunter and the hunter can't beat, you know, that kind of stuff. Anyway, it came to Japan, according to Wikipedia, between the very, very end of the Edo era and the Meiji era. Now, that time, in Western terms, that would be about 1860-ish? Something like this. So it came from China, kind of spread throughout Japan. I believe there were talks in like 1900, 1905, something like that, spreading out of Kyushu, the southernmost island of Japan. I think it's the most southern one. Anyway, going down to Kyushu about 1905-ish. And then not only did it spread in Japan and gain massive popularity, but around that time in Japanese history, Japan was doing lots of deals with the West, specifically Europe at that time. So it actually traveled from Japan to Europe, and I believe it was 1862-ish that a group in England formed a kind of like a society for rock, scissors, paper, which is kind of, hey, if you're having fun, why not? They called this organization, I believe it was the Stone, Scissors, Paper organization, or Paper, Scissors, Stone. Anyway, it involves stone in the title, which is not commonly used anymore to my knowledge, but back then, that was the way they did it. So they formed that organization, and from there on, it just got more and more and more popular. And of course, the rock, scissors, paper part of it was based on just one of the many versions that were played back in Asia. And of course, now, in the States, you can see with Spock and the lizard and all that good stuff. So even now it's evolving into some other kinds of versions, which is always a good time. Yay! Can I do the Spock thing? Can I actually do that? Hang on. Live long and prosper. So let me talk about how it's used in Japan. Now, funny story. I won't lie to you. I went to Wikipedia to see just what exactly was written about janken in Japanese. And when I went to the Japanese Wikipedia, I read the first kind of section that talked about the most basic aspects of janken, what it is and how it's used. And the first sentence in that article, or in that section, the very first thing they said, the literal first sentence of that paragraph, it actually said it's used as a way to quickly determine some outcome that needs to be suddenly decided just in an instant. And they said that conveniently, unlike a coin toss or a raffle, it involves no extra materials. Convenient. I hit a lamp, that's why I did a dance. Weird. So the very first sentence said exactly that. It is used first and foremost to determine things in a group of people. That is the number one way it is used. And then the second sentence then continued on to say, oh, but if you play with an opponent and play in several rounds and determine the winner through how many rounds were won, it can also be used as a form of game. So apparently, rock, scissors, paper is not actually a game at all, we just think it is. Who knew? So, I don't know if you know, I worked in a school for a very long time, and I saw lots and lots of Japanese students, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, making decisions is not a strong point of Japanese high school students. To be fair, disclaimer, it's not exactly a strong suit for high school students in America either, so I kind of attribute it a little bit more to the whole high school thing rather than just Japan, but anyway. So I was in a classroom quite a lot in Japan, and being in a classroom, I did have lots of times that required students making groups or partners or something like this, and I used rock, scissors, paper, shoot all the time. It is universal, and every kid knows how to use it and, stick with the decision. That is one thing that is pretty, well, I don't know about unique, but I enjoyed it anyway. People really tend to just accept it in Japan. I feel like in the States, people always say, oh, one more, best 2 out of 3. But in Japan, they pretty much accept it like, okay, this is my life now, I lost. Cool. And they just move on. That's pretty nice. So I want to give you a cute kind of example as to how this is going to work in a normal everyday situation. So for example, let's say we're in a classroom and it's presentation day. Everybody loves presentation day. And some students are in a group and they need to go up and they need to present something, and of course they are just dying to get up there. So they have to decide which group is going to go first. So maybe they'll get a group leader or something, and the 2 leaders will come together and they will play janken. And then they'll play, and of course the loser has to go first. And that's the end of that. Now, a little secret, what I love to do is have them play janken first, and then you tell them that the winner has to go first. It's great. So great. Now let me give you another example. let's say that the presentations haven't even begun yet. We haven't even started to make the presentations at all. We just need to get students together in a group of more than 2 to start working on these presentations. A good way to do that is to use janken, but not in the traditional sense. Instead of having 3 symbols, rock, scissors, and paper, you actually take one of them away, and then you're left with, for example, rock and paper. Now in Japanese, they call it gu, rock, and pa, paper. So if you have just these 2, they'll call it gu pa. Isn't that cute? Gu pa. So you get all the students together in the group and someone says a cute phrase about gu pa, which I can't remember right now, but surely someone can teach me. They say something, 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 gu pa. And some people will make a pa and some people will make a gu. And the people who have the same symbol will form a group. So if 3 people have gu, then they come together and they make their group. And if 2 or 3 people have pa, then they get together and that's their group. So things like that, gu pa, it's a really quick, instant way to immediately divide people into groups, which if you've ever been in high school, you probably have, you know how weird and hard it is to make groups. Janken is a wonderful way to just be like, whatever, just go together, go, 3, 2, 1, vote, and you can do it. I like that. So how exactly do you play janken in Japanese? Well, it's pretty simple and it's very, very similar to the English version. In America, you would say rock, scissors, paper, shoot. And of course, shoot is when you give your symbol. In Japanese, they say like this: Saisho wa guu, janken pon. Like this. So, saisho wa means at the beginning, or the beginning is da-da-da. And as I said before, gu means rock. So literally you say, at first it's rock, saisho wa gu. And then you just say the name, janken, and pon is basically just shoot in English. That's just when you throw it out there. Janken pon. Something like this. But what if 2 players are very, very good? And what if they get a tie? Well, you say this. Pon. Aiko desho. The thumbs up are not included. So basically, aiko, it means tie, and desho means it is, or it is, right? Aiko desho. Well, it's a tie, isn't it? So, once again, you play saisho wa guu, janken pon. Aiko desho. Aiko desho. Aiko desho. Yeah! This is much more fun when you play with someone else. I've learned that just now in this moment. Well, I like me. Anyway. And there is an extra part to it if you really want to be ambitious. You can say poi instead of pon. Janken poi. And I believe it is the winner, I think, who does it. They point at the opponent's face and they say achi muite hoi. And they point either left, right, up, down. And achi muite means look that way. Achi muite hoi. And hoi is just like a battle call. Hoi! Something like that. So you'd say janken poi achi muite hoi. And if you didn't look up, you lose double, I guess, or something. Is it the winner or the loser? I'm not an expert, obviously. This is unfortunate. But anyway, it's one or the other. So anyway, that's just a couple of ways you can play janken. You can determine any groups you want, you can determine the orders of presentations, or you can just play as a game with your friends, whatever you want to do. It's still fun, I think. So what about janken in just regular Japanese life? Well, it's very, very prevalent, obviously, because of making groups. I mean, every single person has played janken probably 1,000 times in their life growing up, and as adults as well. People make groups in extracurricular activities. People play janken at work if they need to do it. It actually is a really, really big part of life in Japan, and so of course that's going to bleed over to a lot of the media in Japan as well. So if you watch television, for example, you have famous characters like Sazae-san, who has been on TV since like the 70s or 50s or something. She's been on TV forever. Or Doraemon. He is a very, very famous character for children. You might know him. You'll see on their TV shows, they play Janken with you on TV. I know Doraemon does his little face Janken, good no kao, and he makes a face. Or I think Sazae-san, she has the little sign, is bleh, and she shows you what sign. And on numerous children's shows, they play Janken with you on TV, and they'll do these every day because the program comes on television every day. So like on NHK, like Japanese PBS, every single morning on the children's shows, they'll play Janken with you. So you can try your hand, pun intended, and see if you can beat the people on TV. I always enjoyed playing it. I mean, I didn't watch kids shows every day. Nope. And of course, Janken is a huge, huge part of gaming. So huge. I mean, enormously huge. Not necessarily the symbols themselves, rock, paper, and scissors, but I think that the concept is extremely important in gaming. The concept of having 3 different types of things, each one having its particular strength and its particular weakness in order to create a balance so that no one is overpowered. I think it's used literally all the time. Now obviously it's used very explicitly in Paper Mario Color Splash because you go to a literal Janken arena and you play, like, again, WWF wrestling Janken, which is, again, whatever. It's fun. But you can play some other games and you can see just how important it is to the game. A really, really good example of this would be in a game that came out actually quite recently in the States, and that would be Monster Hunter Stories. Now, Monster Hunter Stories came out last year, I think, in Japan. I bought it back then. Really, really fun game. You pair up with monsters and you form a kind of a team, somewhat similar to Pokemon or Yokai Watch. And anyway, you use the monsters to go out and battle other monsters. Easy, right? But when you battle the monster, you battle using a Janken system. On the bottom screen, you actually see the 3 circles in a triangle, each one having its own type. You have power, you have speed, and you have technique. And of course, each one has its own particular strength and its own weakness. For example, speed will always be stronger than power, but it always gives into technique. Something like this. So even when you do a regular battle, I mean, every time you meet an enemy on the screen, on the bottom screen you'll see this triangle, and you can really see that relationship. The whole game hinges on this, the whole game. And yes, it does kind of give it an element of chance as well, because you don't know what the enemy will do. However, as you play through the game and you get to know each different type of monster, you actually get to know its habits. Their kusei, as they say in Japanese. Some monsters tend to choose speed attacks, so obviously when you run into one of those monsters, you'll want to use a technique attack. That way you can always be at an advantage. Something like this. So that's just one very, very recent example of how this is used in games, but there are all kinds of games that do this. If you look at Pokemon, it's actually pretty much exactly the same, only on a larger scale. You have all the elements, each one has its strength and its weakness, so when you go into a battle and you see the abilities and the types of Pokemon that are there, you can choose your own types and work with the strengths and weaknesses and do your battling thing, you know. Well, it is almost time to finish. I did decide, though, that before I end this video, I would help you a little bit, and I want to give you some tips on how to play Janken. Now, in my research, very extensive research, I went to YouTube and I actually saw a very, very long video specifically on the psychological techniques of Janken. So I learned a few kind of helpful tips. I only remember 1 or 2 of them, but anyway, it'll get you started. So first, I was told that if you are to play Janken with someone, and especially if they're feeling really nervous or if they're high energy or something, 99.9% of the time, they're gonna start the game with rock. I guess because it's a power kind of symbol, it makes you feel more powerful. So if you're feeling kind of nervous or unsure, you just immediately go to rock without thinking. So if you're playing someone that you think may be a little nervous or you don't know the person, try paper first, and chances are you will beat them. Who knew? Second thing, I was told, if you play someone, now I feel like this happens with kids more than anything because usually adults won't do this, but if you play an opponent and if the opponent actually tells you what they are going to throw at you, for example, oh yeah, well, alright, here, let's try this. I'm going to throw rock. Ready? Okay. Then at that point in time, it is extremely likely that they are in fact not going to throw rock. Shock! And instead, they're going to try to throw scissors at you, I believe. So at that time, if they say they're going to throw rock, instead you throw rock and then you watch them cry. So I was told. And finally, the last tip. Now, this is what I tried at the start of the video. We'll see if it worked or not. So you can go to someone, ask them to play rock, scissors, paper. You start to play, and right in the middle you say, wait, hang on. Just give me a second. Start again. And 99.9% of the time, your opponent is going to throw scissors. Weird. Did you throw scissors? Because I can't. Anyway, hopefully you did. So apparently, because, as I said before, usually people are going to throw rock at the very first instance. But when you stop their train of thinking by saying, whoa, hang on a second, most people are going to actually change their answer to something else. And for some reason, it's usually scissors. So maybe next time you play rock, scissors, paper with someone, just stop them right before they throw something and see if they change what they throw back at you. And you might win. It's not cheating, it's just bending the rules slightly to benefit you. Technicalities. That is officially all of the Janken knowledge I have. I don't know how long I've been talking about Janken, but I feel like you probably don't need to hear too much more about it, honestly. Anyway, if you ever go to Japan, check out the Janken. Play Janken with everybody. They'll love you. Play it in English. They'll love you. It's just... you can never say no to Janken. You really can't. At all. Just never say no to it. Just do it. Every time. Every time. Well, thank you very, very much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. My leg is actually falling asleep right now, so I'm gonna have to get up soon. Today, though, I think I want to end really quickly with a game of Janken. Why not? So let's see if you've learned anything. So let's try. We'll do in Japanese this time. So on pon, you're gonna throw yours. Janken pon. Okay? Yeah, so here we go. 最初はグー、じゃんけんぽん! How'd you do? Did you win? For you, I hope so. Well, that's all. Thanks for sticking with me, and give me a rose. Bye!